Hello, my name is Norma Carrillo. I'm presenting my research study proposal on my topic, Academic Language Development Strategies and Instructional Approaches for Long-Term English Learners, otherwise known as LTELs. The contents I'm going to cover will be the introduction, problem statement, purpose, anticipated outcomes, my research questions, and the literature review and methods part of my proposal. For my introduction, know that English language learners is a natural passion of mine. My personal background as an English language learner details my educational experiences as a child from parents of immigrant backgrounds who read a limited amount in Spanish, could read and write, and so oftentimes I would go to class and would require help with my work, but very limited in getting help at home. Once I was at home, I had 3 older brothers, but were never available to assist me. So quickly I developed gaps in my education. I developed learned helplessness. I was convinced that I would struggle in school, and because of immigrant status, my family tended to not seek out resources and not talk to other people in our community. So that's what I developed. So instead of learning how to help myself, I think I developed school survival skills. We moved to two cities, and I attended 2 high schools. So this left me, actually found out that I wasn't very keen in my survival skills because I lacked flexibility and adaptability. So with that, paired with the lacks that I had in the academic skills that I needed to grow academically and to develop as an English language learner. So with great influence of great teachers and mentors, upon finishing my college education, I accepted a teaching position as an English language arts teacher in the city of Paris High School, where I taught for 11 years and coached for 1. Over half of the student population at Paris of 2,400 students are classified in a level of English language learning according to CEL. Language learners are those that oftentimes are looked upon and behave like English-only students until close interaction with the students or maybe inspection of their work are the learning gaps of these English language learners apparent. Oftentimes, teachers are shocked that these seemingly fluent English language students are actually struggling in one of the 4 domains of the English language: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. These students are viewed as lazy or apathetic because of this academic hopelessness that I know that I experienced as a student. Good thing, lots of research available on long-term English learners or LTELs. So the typical LTEL profile at Paris High School is a student who is enrolled in several content core classes, has below a 2.0 GPA, and struggles in all their classes. The problem statement reveals frustrated teachers that view their students as refusing to cooperate academically. Students in the city of Paris live in poverty situations. A semi-rural environment is often an obstacle in their ability to attend school or arrive on time with consistency. The students' inability to be in class naturally will affect their academic performance and their language development. So educators have no control over circumstances affecting their students outside the classroom, to include parent participation. Dr. Laurie Olson's work on LTEL suggests that academic language development is a consistent deficiency English language learners experience in their instructional day. In the Common Core context, long-term English learners are disadvantaged in this task of accessing meaning from complex text and struggle. LTELs check out academically, they get in trouble because of this accepted learning, this idea that learning is not going to happen. Again, the students tend to have below a 2.0 GPA. They lack skills to help themselves in tackling academic challenges and are viewed as lazy by authority figures. Research points to best practice that can remedy this academic disenfranchisement. Inconsistently applied, it's yet to be determined the extent of the impact the research-based instructional strategies have on student academic progress and overall learning. Teachers are consumed by questions about how to implement these instructional practices in their content area. Helping teachers to understand the language learning gaps of EL students at each level will be critical. Some programs geared to address academic language development in my district exist, but results have been short-lived. The purpose of my study have been motivated by recent federal program monitoring notes. The FPM is an accountability system that evaluates how well a district utilizes funds as well as personnel capital to meet the linguistic and academic needs of our EL students. So the FPM recently noted that some schools in the Paris district show little evidence of meeting the instructional needs of English language learners. In our district, we have great teachers that have the best of intentions, preparing long-term English learners to make improvement in their English language development remains an obstacle for us and for many in the state of California. Teaching staff needs help to ensure that LTALs make academic gains in English language development. Lesson plan regularly and organized lessons show great impact on learning of their students. Still, this planning and organization takes a lot of time and energy. But even still, depending on the student, depending on the teacher practices, often these two are not enough. Teachers need to be strategic. After planning what they will teach, reflect on the language needs and supports that are going to be required for that lesson, then concentrating on delivering methods for the lesson, specifically activities and strategies that are going to build access to that lesson. Teachers are great students. They're individually unique and learn in unique ways. So tools, materials, training approaches for these 21st century teachers must be delivered in different formats that consider the variety of learning styles. So addressing the academic learning needs of LTALs is tough work, making it more crucial to support and motivate teachers to be their best using accountability and non-threatening methods. Teachers need an easy toolkit to help them service their language learning students. When teachers learn and grow, students learn and grow. Then administrators learn and grow as well. As you can see, the impact of capitalizing on meeting the learning needs of LTALs can stretch out to the community of Paris at large. Set in the constructivism context, my anticipated outcomes in my work resound in the quote, "We rise by lifting others" of Robert Ingersoll. So I'm hoping that with this work, we will result with empowered English language learners that aim high in academic and life planning and fulfillment, that are second, the ELs become culturally relevant and skilled for the 21st century world of work because they're well prepared in our schools. Thirdly, that our teachers experience a wave of positivity and inspiration about instructional matters. And lastly, that the learning environment at the schools embrace new things and embrace the achieving gains through reflective practices. My research question: what are the best methods and strategies that will help secondary education level English language arts and cross-curricular teachers identify language learning gaps and bridge these literacy deficiencies through the use of academic language development of their long-term English learners of limited socioeconomic backgrounds? Then follow it up by the question: how do these research-based literacy practices relate to the impact of the type of instructional delivery students receive in their classes? So my literature review I think floated around 4 themes. My first theme, California, long-term English learners in California. So from the review of the literature, I found that 31% of all English learners in California are at the secondary level of schooling. 60% of those secondary EL students are actually long-term English learners. So if 30% of our English learners in California are at the high school, that means that if we're looking at 60%, that means the majority of our high school students that are ELs are long-term English learners. In other words, they are not making progress. The research looked at what are some causes that created this. Some mentioned the lack of governmental leadership concern and lack of district definition of the LTAL profile. This group is typified as experiencing a combination of academic struggles, failures to progress in English development, despite the increased number of years enrolled in U.S. schools. Student exposure and practice with informational text should make up 70% of their instructional exposure in classes a day across ELA and non-ELA content classes. Text read in classes should meet the Common Core demands of text complexity, quality, range per grade level, all of which often instructional access is deprived for LTELs. And LTELs give up on trying to make academic progress because of permitted academic passivity. For my second topic, I was interested in looking at how is it that English learners become long-term English learners. And I found a couple things in the work. Oftentimes, the challenge lies in the access to complex text because of the assumed content knowledge, limited use of text features and graphics, distortions in the text organization such as unexpected time sequences, and multiple levels of meaning and vocabulary just in general. Far too many ELs in California are also placed in classes without ELD services. So in today's educational context, LTELs require formal training in registers of language, discourse patterns, and story structures, as suggested by Dr. Ruby Payne's work on culture of poverty. All in all, the key for a successful EL program for LTEL lies in the strength of the language development approach, the consistency and coherence of the program a student receives across grade levels. For my third topic, bridge building approaches for long-term English learners, the literature documents 8th grade students' overwhelming lack of reading proficiency across America. 8th graders quickly turn to 9th graders. So with ill-prepared high school students, Common Core aims to prepare students in the 21st century for college career readiness, and ELD standards becomes a greater challenge for educators. LTELs need instructional programming that clearly addresses language development in addition to literacy development. That includes daily practice and development in all of the 4 domains of the English language. So because of Common Core, programs for LTELs aim for maximum integration with other students without sacrificing access. So students require support during the integration process. And lastly, looking at effective instructional practices, I found the strategies and approaches that are inclusive and that affirm the school climate and utilizes relevant text is very helpful. The impact of teachers' perceptions and expectations, utilizing bridge building strategies to address socioeconomic differences and support of second language acquisition using culturally responsive learning approaches is very effective. In addition, a collaborative mechanism for designing effective instruction for LTELs that allows for flexibility for teachers is recommended, as well as the implementation of effective instructional practices that focus on modeling, guided practice, and checking for understanding. So, in reflecting on my study, I found that the best fit would be a mixed methods approach. So I thought I would take some of the literature I reviewed to develop some curriculum. And the idea is to take 4 classes with high concentrations of LTELs and implement the literary curriculum that I'm going to develop. So I want to do 2 ELA and 2 non-ELA classes. 2 teachers will receive daily coaching and support in instructional best practice methods. One of the English teachers and the other one a non-ELA teacher. And the other 2 teachers will teach the curriculum I develop with no support. So that one's still the quantitative piece. I also thought it would be important that I do a pre and post data analysis on LTEL progress on the reading claim of the quarterly department common assessments and SBAC results. Again, those 2 make up the quantitative piece of my research. And lastly, I'm going to do a qualitative piece, and that's where I'll use a survey where the 4 teachers will do analysis and reflect on their student performance data, instructional approaches that were used, and the resources available to support the teacher. So I'll do a pre and post. So again, the combination